Hello, my name is Renata von Tscharner, and you are going to see the Charles River Parkland show. I'm the president of the Charles River Conservancy, and I have a program in mind today to show you some watercolors and read some stories out of a publication that was published for the 10th anniversary of the Charles River Conservancy. And the publication is called River Stories. And people have contributed to those stories. And these stories, some happen as people drive along the river, like by Anita Diamond, or a story by Fred Salvucci when he thinks of how the Parklands look like or should look like after the big dig. Another story I'll be reading is by John de Villars, who is a rower but also has been working hard to bring swimming back to the Charles River. And I'll end with a story by Renee Loth, and former editor of the Boston Globe, who sings her praise for Herder Park, a very special part of the Park River, of the Charles River. So we will start our images of the river in the New Basin, part adjacent to East Cambridge, where the Charles River flows into the harbor. And this particular image by Nan Howe shows the big part of the big dig, the Zaka Bridge. It shows the railroad crossing come out of North Station. There used to be 20 crossings coming out of North Station into North Point Park. In the foreground, we see some of the new landscaping, the lagoon that was created out of mitigation funds from the big dig, and of course the Boston duck tours that come in and out right there near the Bascule Bridge, which is the bridge that goes up to let the boats go by. So another picture by Caroline Neuberger, which looks from the Cambridge side. She is here at EF, looks over to the courthouse and to downtown Boston, bringing out the bright colors along the river. We are still here in the New Basin, and we are looking now here towards the Museum of Science, the Green Line Viaduct, and again the wonderful parks in the foreground. These parks used to be an industrial waste site. There was a garbage dump for the city of Cambridge. There was an MDC maintenance facility, and now it's still a very little known green space with playgrounds and wonderful areas to walk, to bicycle, and to stroll. We are moving slowly upriver. We still see the Zaken Bridge. To the left, we see from the Green Line Viaduct where the train goes over, and the tower to the right is from the old Lock building. We are now in what Carl Haglund in his book Inventing the Charles River calls the Court of Honor. We are on the upriver side of the Museum of Science, looking up towards the Longfellow Bridge, and in the background we see the Citgo sign. On the right is Cambridge, the power plant, and a wonderful spot that is a great place to experience the Parklands. I want now to read a story by Fred Salvucci, and Fred Salvucci is now a lecturer at MIT. He was the Secretary of Transportation in both the first and the second Dukakis administration, and he spoke at the 10th anniversary of the Charles River Conservancy and had a dialogue with Tom Ashbrook from WBUR. The story is called Memories of the Charles. My earliest memory of the Charles is walking alongside it as a little boy with my mother and cousins to visit family friends in Watertown. I thought it was beautiful. I had never seen boats before, and they seemed magical, and the little waterfall near Watertown Square amazed me. I loved the golden tea color of the water and asked why we couldn't swim in it. I was told that it was polluted by industry, especially the foul-smelling slaughterhouses, but that people used to swim in the river. My father had learned to swim at Magazine Beach when he first came to the US from Italy, and brave cousin Joe had even dived off the Cottage Farm Bridge. Maybe someday it would again be clean enough to swim in safely. I remember a traffic jam when Star Drive was being ripped through the Esplanade. Later, when I was a student at Boston Latin School, the Esplanade dock was where I rowed crew in whaleboats with my cousin from Tech and Trade. At MIT, I got to row in sleek shells that reminded me of a mandolin and go on dates to the totem pole in Norumbega Park. I remember walking across the Mass Avenue Bridge to visit my future wife, who was working in a doctor's office facing the Charles Gate Hotel before the ugly Bowker overpass disrupted its beauty. Later, we would ice skate with my sister and our kids at the Cove in Auburndale. Today, I walk with my wife all along the river's banks, from Charlestown and North Station to Waltham, row in it with my grandchildren, and hope someday to swim in it with them. I read Inventing the Charles and learned that much of the Charles River Basin is man-made. I study the structural problems of the bridges over and along it, and think about how to maintain the accessibility of the region during the decades of reconstruction by increasing the use of public transportation. If we can figure out how to live with fewer autos crossing and driving along the Charles for 10 to 20 years of reconstruction, why not reconceptualize the road and bridges as being primarily for pedestrians to enjoy access to the river? When Storrow Drive was built through the Esplanade, violating Mrs. Storrow's will, it was justified because commuter rail was decaying and there were no other regional roads, not the Turnpike or Route 28 or Central Artery, no Red Line beyond Harvard Square or Green Line north of Lechmere. But now that we have added or improved all of these facilities, why don't we reconceptualize the bridges with much wider sidewalks and better trails along the riverbanks, allowing pedestrians to stop and ponder the river? There's an old Neapolitan saying that we get the government we deserve. We have an incredible opportunity to reinvent the Charles, to make it even more beautiful, but we will miss this chance unless we invest in the civic engagement to demand it. If James Storrow could imagine a beautiful Charles River Basin and Esplanade to replace an open industrial sewer and mudflats in the early 1900s, why shouldn't we invest the civic energy to make it even better in the 21st century? If we worked hard enough, we can make it happen. That's Fred Salvucci with his vision for the Charles River Parklands. A wonderful vision. Let's go back to some images and travel further up the river. We are still here at the Museum of Science. We're looking at the detail of the pavilion on the parkland that was created when the river was dammed, and this Asian-looking pavilion was created, a wonderful jewel of metalwork, also by Nan House. And here, looking up further the river, Tony Connors created this wonderful impression with just a few watery strokes. It was a very wet day when we painted, and you will see that it gets mistier and mistier, different people seeing the beauty of the Charles River. And here the master Frank Costantino, the buildings on the Cambridge side had disappeared in the fog. But even on a rainy day, the Charles is very beautiful, particularly if painted by somebody like Frank Costantino, who has an amazing eye. That's also Frank, who captured a boat, and the Hancock Tower has disappeared in the fog. We are looking still from the same spot here at the Museum of Science. We're looking towards the Lichmere Canal, a real urban jewel where people work, people shop, people live. The boat tours come out of there. There's a food court along the water. So there are a lot of different options on this river. Now we come to the Esplanade, and for many